Hi, everybody. This is Venkat from Simply.Coach, and you're listening to the Growth Dialogues podcast, the show that brings together experts in coaching, therapy, and consulting from around the world. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Growth Dialogues, and I'm very happy to have as our guest today Lynn Wagner. Lynn is the president of Career Coaching and Relocating, REA, and I've had the pleasure of interacting with her for a couple of years now. Welcome to the show, Lynn.
Thank you so much, Venkat. So happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
So, for a lot of our listeners, Lynn, they're very familiar with leadership coaching and business coaching. So, could you give us some background on what is career and relocation coaching? It would be great to start off with that.
Yeah. So it is a particular niche of coaching that grew out of recognizing a need. So essentially, REA is career and relocation coaching, and actually was among those that identified the need for the coaching, particularly in the relocation space. And it's actually grew particularly for spouses and partners that were joining an employee as they made a relocation or even assignment, a global assignment, whether they're moving within their country or to another country. But recognizing spouses were often giving up a job and following the employee to the new location and needing support to manage what was important to them. Certainly was a missing link in supporting employees through that process. And so career coaching that was already happening and widely used, certainly from a outplacement perspective, as employees were maybe exiting organizations, really adapted well to that particular need. And so that's really where it got its start, but still remains a relatively niche aspect of the coaching industry, but still definitely uses and needs all the same types of guidance that anybody going through any kind of change management and needing support to navigate that in a way that is
So
effective
cool,
and productive.
because I was a beneficiary of such a coaching years ago when I moved from India to Singapore. Both me and my wife really appreciated the initial times where a lot of
Mm.
things, both the logistical, emotional support, and things that came. So it's something which I had the privilege of going through, so I'm able to really appreciate it. Right? So one of the things also we recognize across the coaching industry is that COVID had a very profound impact. Almost everyone seems to say pre-COVID and post-COVID. How was it in your industry? What are some of the changes that you have seen?
Yeah. So just from the relocation perspective, it changed who was moving, how many people were moving. Obviously, in the midst of the pandemic, there was no movement at all. But then post-pandemic, it was different, and fewer people were moving. And so obviously the remote work and navigating a shift to being effective working remotely was often a big part of the coaching that we were providing. But also, in the cases where someone was making that was still making a transition, actually navigating a move, but maybe from the spouse's perspective, they were continuing or moving to a remote role, seeking out those types of opportunities, and just the ways that you find those, the ways that you adapt to them, and understand, the differing challenges that might come up with remote work. How it can certainly still be a wonderful way to execute a role, and you can still absolutely integrate into an organization and be highly effective. But it's definitely a very different challenge, and you may not always recognize exactly how to do that. And so a lot of the coaching would adapt to one, finding those types of roles, but also adapting to them and thriving in that different type of environment.
And is this a lot of movement just within the US, or is this a lot of international movement that happens? Where is the industry going with that?
Yes, so both really. It's changed, and obviously, so the challenges that that are faced are different based on, obviously within a country versus moving globally. So obviously globally there are immigration challenges, and that has a significant impact on movement, and is certainly a challenge at the moment.
Okay.
Domestically, it's often housing related challenges. Certainly within the United States, there are significant changes from a real estate perspective, and so that has a significant impact on volumes at the moment, and just how our company is going to navigate that. But at the end of the day, throughout the industry, we're always recognizing that movement is necessary, and getting the talent that you need in the locations you need it is always going to require relocation and moving that talent around the world. And so it's just adapting to the challenges that exist, and adapting tools and business models and all of that to support that ever needed transaction, essentially.
Yeah, and that's certainly true, and especially with the larger corporates, where I think the mobility of talent is also a selling point to attract some of the top talent, right? So you get a global role,
Right.
you get rotated. So that's a good perspective that I got about your business. So what about understand now about the people who make up this business? So you have several coaches who work with you. Give us a sense of what's the profile of a coach in your business. What does she bring to the table?
Yeah. So, like with most coaches, many have their own long-term professional backgrounds in various types of industries and skill sets and niches, but have then also over time developed very specific coaching capabilities, coaching certifications, and that sort of thing. So those are baseline requirements of any of the coaches that we work with, but almost equally important, because of our relocation related focus up to now, has been, especially if we're supporting people moving internationally, is that they have that expatriate or relocation experience themselves.
Okay.
Because in that particular scenario, the ability to empathize and really put themselves in the shoes of the coachee is particularly important, and supports their ability to develop a rapport and provide that much better guidance, help ask the right questions, and help people think about the right things, and prepare in the way that they need to navigate that particular challenge. And so that particular qualification is pretty high on the list, in addition to the just standard coaching formation, coaching capability.
Yeah, I would imagine you said that it is a niche, which means that coaches also should be very specialized, and the fact that they have themselves relocated, I guess, gets a lot of authenticity when they suggest something to a coachee. So yeah, that resonates. So as you scale up your business and you're doing this in a worldwide, give us a sense of what's the sort of technology that you have used in the past. How has it changed? How is that helping you?
Hmm. I mean, for a very long time, we have been the kind of organization that does the coaching remotely, and so have
Mhm.
used tools like, Skype and Zoom and obviously email and telephone and that sort of thing, and gave then external tools or platforms to provide tools around a job search or navigating the change of a relocation, and tools that they would use in addition to their coaching. But over time, what we recognized is it has always been that interaction with one's coach, the ability, the conversations, and even just even the email back and forth, the very specific guidance and customized guidance they get from their coach, which is what's most valuable. Again, while we had these tools to, pointing them to resources for identifying jobs and or practicing for interviews and all that kind of thing available, and very valuable, or um, information heavy resources that I felt like people needed, didn't
Mhm.
really use them in the same way as they did the interacting with their coach. And so what we've um, realized and have moved toward is technology that further facilitates that close connection and makes it as frictionless as possible,
Mhm.
so that connecting with one's coach is that much easier. So tools that allow for um, sort of one-click scheduling, and the ability to have a tool where you can be connecting back and forth with each other. So which really is what brought us to Simply.Coach, recognizing that tool was one that had the functionality within it that was going to make that connection that much easier. Because at the end of the day, what we've always seen people value is that connection. And then recognizing too that these days, how are people communicating with each other? It's via those types of tools. And so again, the fact that it was an app as
Mhm.
well, and for the push notifications and things like that, all of the functionality within it were ways that a coach could be even closer to their coachee and more accessible to their coachee, to be having the conversations, which are where the magic of the relationship is.
I think it's a great point you make about one is from the perspective of what the coaches get out of it, but also what the coachees, your end
Mm.
clients, get out of it, and fact that they can communicate, they can do a single click, they can take. I can imagine that that must be a very big change for them. So you
Mm.
talked about change management. So I'm sure some of your coaches are very good coaches, but maybe they are not used to so much technology.
Mm. Yeah.
So how did this process play out in your organization?
Well, no. So you're absolutely right, and um, it's interesting. We've often even talked inside how change is hard for everyone, even those who help others navigate change. So it's definitely still um, an undertaking within an organization to make um, process changes and that sort of thing. So we definitely had those some resistance, or um, some of that to overcome. But I think again, at the end of the day, with some of the testing, and even then the flexibility around adapting the tool to our process and how we really needed to, the functionality we really needed to have supported their ability to adopt the technology and recognize, okay, it's different, but here's how it's better, and here's how you can still feel some of that familiarity from a process perspective and that sort of thing. So that was certainly key. Again, the adaptability of the tool to really meet our needs, and again, our ability to collaborate with you and make some of the changes that really were necessary for our organization, for our process, but then again, still help us leap forward in the ability to connect with our end users.
So good to hear that. So as you went through the process of making this change of using more technology, you're looking at different technology service providers. As a senior leader, give us a sense of how did you go about this process? What are the things that you're looking for in a technology service provider? What were the key things to consider?
Well, I think the top of the list was the ability to collaborate and find a tool that's going to have a lot of what you need already, but recognizing that for most organizations, sort of off the shelf or out of the box isn't going to answer all of the needs that you have. And so the ability to collaborate and customize, while again recognizing that you're choosing a tool that fundamentally has the tools that you need already, but the ability to collaborate and adapt it to our particular need, and certainly responsiveness and guidance, really too. The sharing of expertise to support us with what we don't know. So that I would say that was probably the first three items. I mean, collaborative being the top need.
Yeah, resonates. Absolutely resonates. And just a couple of last things before we close here. How do you see your industry moving ahead over the next few years? Do you see some major trends that you're spotting there? What's changing and what's going to be more of the same?
Yeah. Well, sort of the cliche of what will continue to happen is change.
Okay.
There are always new challenges, and again, the how people work, where they work, will certainly continue to adapt. But from the relocation space, particularly, I'm hopeful that because of how organizations have, especially post-COVID, recognized their own obligation to their workforce from a well-being perspective, that there's going to be that much more investment and recognition of the value of coaching, and in all of the various ways their employees are making transitions. Obviously, relocation, is a big one, but supporting people as they develop within an organization, but certainly as they are potentially exiting an organization. And so I'm hopeful that recognition will be a continuing trend, and an understanding at the corporate level that there's that investment, that return on that investment is exponentially more than, again, the expense itself. And so I see that definitely growing, and then just how is it organizations will incorporate that is the challenge of then the rest of us figure out is, how do you fill the need? How do you help them fill that need in the most efficient and productive ways? But I'm encouraged by that by that particular trend.
Excellent. So my last one, and I think you made some memorable quotes already. What's going to change is more change, right? But still, wanted to ask you any particular coaching quote that you have found very interesting that you sort of use, something that our listeners would like to hear from you. Anything you're able to remember? Lynn?
Yeah. So I usually notice them because I'm sure as you do too. When someone says something about coaching, and the more clever the turn of phrase, the more likely it is to stick with me. But one that has stuck with me is, I think, particularly illuminates the balance that coaches have to find. But it's that coaching is about troubling the comfortable and comforting the troubled.
Troubling
So it's finding the right balance of, pushing people past their blind spots, or again their comfort zones, while also supporting someone to, with the empathy that, especially when they are in particularly troubled or difficult times. So the balance of pushing and comforting, I think. So I always thought that was a good one.
Amazing, Lynn. That's a great one. I'm going to use that in my coaching as well. It's probably a great note to end the conversation on. Thank you very much, Lynn, being generous with your time and also being a very, very valuable client of Simply.Coach. Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you, Venkat. It was great.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Growth Dialogues. Don't forget to subscribe to us wherever you enjoy your podcast.